Hello, I'm Craig Constantine. Welcome to Pod Talk, short conversations with indie podcasters that are not just about podcasting, because I like to take the scenic route. My guest today is Tom Huntington. Welcome, Tom. How are you this morning? You're on the left coast. How are you this morning?
I'm doing great, Craig, and I'm so excited you accepted my invitation to interview, no, to have a team conversation with you about your project, Open and Curious. I'm so excited.
We should unpack this. So, I posted on the workbench in the podcaster community that I'm working on. I was at the time, I was wordsmithing the description for a new podcast. Hello, I'm Craig. I have a podcasting problem. I'm making yet another show. I was making another show, and I said to everybody, hey, I got this new idea. It's called Open and Curious. And what do you guys think of this description for the podcast? And I was trying to wordsmith it. And then from that, I was going to pull like, what's the short description? What's the intro that I say? And so it's like the first piece of copy that I was crafting. So there are a lot of people who went, wait, what? Like new project? What is this thing? So Open and Curious started, I think it's 7 or 8 months ago. It was early last year. Um, where I began writing. And what happened was I realized I was writing more and more about my, I don't want to say journey. I want to say like my ridiculous, crazy, playful, delightful exploration of conversation. I started writing more about this. And then I thought, this stuff is buried inside everything else that I'm doing. So I wanted to pull out this joyful journey. So I'm like, all right, I got to pull this out. So I went and I started writing on a new platform, completely separate from my websites and projects, another thing, make a whole new thing, Craig. And that's how this got started. So it was originally called Thoughts on Conversation. I have a great friend who runs a large community centered around a movement practice called parkour. And he runs this like multi-thousand people event on a rooftop of a school in Manhattan. And he's like, come and give a presentation. So I did that. And then I went to another event. And the more I talk about this, the more I start saying, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? People get excited about this project. So I'm super excited about it. And when you read my workbench topic, you wrote back, I think you actually messaged me privately and said, hey, what if we get together and talk about the show? So it's kind of like the flip
Because I
side.
know I'm interrupting you,
No, you
because
can interrupt.
I was immediately excited when I saw something you had before this
Hmm.
about Open and Curious and the other platform, and I went and looked there, and I'm excited about Open and Curious as a principle of life for healthy human nature, which is my thing. Is what are the truths about healthy human nature? We're humans, so there
Yeah.
must be some truths, and I'm convinced from that Open and Curious. So I'm so excited about your project.
Well, thank you. Before I hit the big, oddly, it's blue. Before I hit the big blue record button, we were talking a little bit about your see I always enjoy hearing people tell me their perceptions of anything that I do because I don't know what your perspective is, right? So you were describing what I would call an embodied learning experience. So
Yes.
like you bump into this idea. Craig's going like open and curious, it's a thing about mission, discovery, conversation. And Tom was like, that's interesting, and like put it in the back of his head. And then like a week goes by, and then you were telling me before about some experiences you had about how this sort of to put words in your mouth, how it fit into like it just slotted itself right in. And I think you made a great point about you said something to the effect of, I'm just going to first person it. So I make the mistake of thinking that I understand or feeling like I have control over complexity. And then that leads to me trying to assert my will. And in order to be open, that's like the exact opposite. Like if that's a knob, like asserted and I'm in control and I'm right is like zero. And you turn the knob, Craig's over like on 11, which is a movie reference. I'm over like on 11 on the open and curious style. So I thought that was a really good point. I was glad that you, um, yeah, I'm glad that drew your attention. That open and curious is just, it's not like a guide or a rule. It's just this, yeah, that's kind of what it means to be human, I think. or functional human, or
Unless you've been mistrained to think you're supposed to know the right answer all day long,
right.
that you're supposed to not have any problems, that you're supposed to be perfect, which, you know, not everybody gets that memo, but a lot of us get this memo who didn't get it early in life begin to get it in middle age.
Yeah. Stop
I've
asking
never
questions.
had this
Just
thought
put your
before,
head
but
down and do. Yeah.
the middle age thing, what does our culture call it? The midlife crisis. Well, the midlife crisis is really getting, oh my goodness. Oh, I'm not supposed to keep trying to be perfect.
Hmm. Well, there comes a point where you look back on your life and you go, well, how did that work out for me so far?
Right.
And either you say, oh, it's going good, and you keep going, in which case you haven't reached your midlife crisis yet.
There you go. There's a hypothesis. That's
Exactly.
but I agree. It makes sense because it's so easy. And I'm saying this, you can't see me, but I'm saying this with empathy for our culture, for those of us who live in the relatively safe, developed cultures of the world where we can get away with thinking
Mm.
there aren't problems and thinking, oh, yeah, it's good enough. It's good enough.
Yeah,
It's
this
good
is under
enough.
control. What?
Right.
There's a cartoon meme about this. It's a dog sitting in a room, and the room is catching on fire, and the dog's like, "Everything's fine." That's like a whole meme. Yes, exactly.
But wait, well,
Um,
okay, wait. I'm gonna pull us back, I think, from what you just said to so now I'm excited about your project. And you got me the way you reflected back to me what I'd shared with you earlier about my percolating about, oh, open and curious from my subjective experience
mhm.
and how enriched I am with how many moments I've put my attention, my life attention in real life. I really only I mean, I was excited about your project, but then I only really chose to put any focused attention on
Mm.
it, me attention, learning attention on Sunday and Monday, and now it's Tuesday and this morning. And what I didn't spend more than an hour and a half in all these different moments. And my life is enriched with my next
Whew.
level of my subjective experience of valuing what I'll call the skills of my self skills of, oh, being open and curious while I'm talking to you.
Mm. Thank you. That's high praise. Okay.
Well,
Um,
it's also reinforcement, in my opinion, you're onto something.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I
So
don't wanna say
so
I'm onto something.
no, I'm
Tom's onto
interrupting.
something, and I
I'm
just said,
inter I'm
"Go."
interrupting you. I'm interrupting you. And I started interrupting you when you said 11. You were on 11, okay? Okay. So now I had this thought. Okay, so open and curious as as I'm continuing to study the topic. I'll say the topic. The experience is a better word. A
Yeah,
topic
yes.
can be so conceptual. The experience and my subjective experience of studying the experience of that the words open and curious help me go in that direction is some from my first brain science mentor, my first specific brain science mentor. He wrote a book called The Developing Mind, and I'm going to see if I can reach it real quickly uh, to get the oh to get
Caution.
the subhead. Yeah, The Developing Mind: How Relationships and the Brain Interact to Shape Who We Are.
Mm.
Okay. Okay. My culture didn't teach us that.
Yeah, that's
My
not front
culture,
and center.
yeah. My culture taught me I'm all on my own, and I can't learn from the other kids in third grade or no, and we can't learn from those people. They're not good people, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And oh, oh, okay. And then now learning this later in after I'd had my midlife my midlife
Midlife
revival,
revelation. Right.
midlife revival, I got, oh, I didn't learn some basic things early in life. And one of them was my parents didn't know that. So they didn't see me. They weren't open and curious about, well,
Mm,
who's this 18-month-old weird alien creature from us and our experience in our 40s. And so my back to why I'm sharing this. So in the middle of his book, I don't need to. He's studying, he's integrating the the brain science of the late 80s and early 90s. And the 90s, I believe, was called the decade of the brain. And so there was all this high level neuroscience and science going on. And he's a psychiatrist, and he's influenced by this science, but he has questions about it. Like, so he's
mm,
open and curious about the science of how a brain gets to be in balance. He didn't use the word imbalance, but he's a psychiatrist. So he's his genre in the world, his thing is mental health. Okay.
right.
Okay. Oh, a lot of us humans, yeah. What's the truths about mental health? And so he's studying brain science, and then he's studying something called attachment science, which is 50 years of attachment science, which is who study early childhood relationships. And so he's has this big question that he's studying those questions, and that he's writing that book, and he tells a story in there. So he's doing this trying to synthesize those two things, and a physics principle called complexity theory about clouds, and that clouds actually have some they're not just random chaos. They're not just
Right.
chaos. I guess it started with chaos theory, and it's not something I've put a lot of attention on. So he's percolating all of these while he's in the process of writing these books. And he tells his story is he's in the middle of the night. He's saying, oh, you need to be open to learning, open to we're live systems. Open systems are
Mm,
always changing because we're receiving input all the time. Okay. And then, but if we're too open as humans, we go into chaos. And if we're too rigid, I know the way it's supposed to be, we're too unopen to
mm.
learning. And so he's putting those together at this point in his, and he like, oh my goodness. And he comes up with this term maximal complexity, that, oh, max this, when I'm open enough in the
To what?
moment,
Right.
open and curious enough in the moment for us right now. See, it applies all the time. Now I'm linking it, but I'm not too open, so I'm chaotic and nobody can understand. So I'm talking slowly here for us, because you went in that direction when you said 11. And your story about your mother, like, you've always been this way, Craig. And so, yeah. And so it's how to find the balance, open and curious, with in the context of the life situation in the
Right.
moment. See, I can even feel, oh, I'm talking a little bit, I'm feeling I'm a little over more on the open and curious, without being the leader, the team leader of my body for us. And now I'm finished, and back over to you.
I think the point that you make about that balance is critical. I've seen that point made in like biology, like at a cell level too. So there's an interesting like multi-scale, like what does it mean to be a country? What does it mean to be a person? What does it mean to be a bacteria? Um, and I think that I certainly didn't. If you ask me in the elevator, what's open and curious, I'm not going to talk about complex theory and chaos theory. But I really feel like a question that I get a lot when I'm talking to people who are trying to make podcasts with guests They're like, how do I direct this conversation? I really, really, really want to talk to Tom, but how am I going to direct this conversation to go where I want it to go? Because I'm trying to serve my listeners, or I'm trying to learn something. Like, so they have this very well-intentioned urge to control and direct, which you and I were talking about earlier on. And I've said for a long time what I'm going to say in a second, but I've never realized that I was actually trying to counter that human urge to control. I didn't realize that until you were just explaining it now. But what I say to people is, if you develop your curiosity, this is what I've been saying for quite a while. If you develop your curiosity, you can't help but end up going where you want to go, because you're going to wind up asking, well, I got 20 questions and I got 7 minutes. I guess I'll ask this question. Well, guess which one you're going to pick? I mean, unless you're a psychopath, you're going to pick the question which is interesting to you and interesting to the guest. And standing on Broadway in Manhattan, I'm probably going to suggest that we head for coffee because that's what I like. But then you might say, let's have tea. So we end up having a beverage. Like, your curiosity will always lead you somewhere. And once you refine that, and that's where I think where the word open came from. Like, I don't want to just be curious, because then I just walk around going, why? Like, then it's just rabbit holes everywhere. I want to be like open to learning, but I also want to actually go somewhere in particular. So I think once you build your curiosity muscle, like, as a speaking about like people who are podcasting, as you build that curiosity muscle and you get better at not trying to go somewhere in particular, but trying to be really clear to yourself about what's salient, what's important right now. And then just be open, like, I mean, one classic one I say all the time is just grab two things that pop into your head and staple them together. Like, I wonder if this and this are related, because the two things that you grab are going to be related to the conversation. So if I say, I wonder if Battery Park and pizza are related, if you've ever been to Manhattan, people just went, I mean, like, Battery Park's all the way down at the bottom. And I don't know, you could probably eat all the pizza in Manhattan on the way to like, your conversation will just follow that curious drive that you have. So that's just one thing I wanted to say about your point about balance makes more clear to me why something I've been saying may actually be true. Tom's nodding along and we're just leaving space.
Well, so I don't have my two hands stapled together. Something I do is, Craig and I can see each other. I'm holding my hands up in front of me towards the video, towards the camera, towards Craig. So, okay. And see, now I even forget what they were. I forget I
That's
forget
okay,
what they
because your
were, but
brain
no,
won't.
Battery Park and
Oh, and pizza.
pizza. Okay. And then I didn't know where you were gonna go with that. And then you did that, oh, you could probably eat all the pizza on your way to Battery Park, which was such a surprising thought to me. Now, I have been to Battery Park, and I have been to Manhattan a few times. I grew up 20 miles in New Jersey from
Ah,
New York, and worked in Wall Street in my summer jobs when I was in a teenager. Um, so the two things, that's why I have the two hands. Oh, so what I heard you just say took me in the direction of my learning over the last few years of I would get out of balance with having too many ideas, with too many things, okay?
I too
And
self-diagnosed with this problem.
and then I wouldn't get anything done. And then I'd get mad at myself because I wouldn't get anything done.
Yeah.
Eventually though, see, this is midlife revelation, or whatever I said before, is I began to see the repetition of this problem and
Mm,
realize it was a me problem. It wasn't anyone else's fault. It wasn't in the water or the weather. And then um, and along the way, and this may or may not relate, but I think it does. I would see, I'm making the task the work task or the relationship task more important than me.
Yeah.
So of course I'm out of balance.
Yeah, self-help. Yeah, knowing.
So then I began to idea, just an idea. Okay, I'm not agreeing to do the idea.
Yeah.
Okay, it's just an idea. Do I is So don't make the mistake, Tom, that you've agreed to this idea or that you should agree to this idea. It's just an idea. Do you want to stop what you're doing because you had this idea? And or do you want to put that on a shelf and think about it later? That's easy. That's an easy question. That's a
Yeah.
two, that's do this or do that. Oh, that's an easy one. You don't need to overthink it or get a master's in anything.
Or invent, as I would do, some complicated process for. I'm like a process builder. I build systems. Crazy, crazy, crazy.
I know that one too. However, I'm hypothesizing I never was and probably never and have no ambition to be as skilled at process building as
It
you've
cuts
you
it cuts both ways. It's like a
yes,
force
yes.
multiplier. Like I can get more done with one hand tied behind my back than I couldn't if I wasn't as process nerdy. But I also, just as you were saying, I have to be very aware of. I often think of things in two directions. Like if I have an idea for a way to make this show better, there's two ways. I need to make that change going forward on future episodes. And then I immediately go, oh, I should go backwards and fix the 130. And it's like, like,
Yeah.
but if you're
I
a
know that
process
one. Yeah.
nerd, that's like the urge to like no remainders, to clean up all the details, to
Oh wow.
figuratively clean your plate. That's a hazard for
I'm
me
I'm
at
having
all
empathy.
times.
Yeah, and I'm having empathy for getting I have that very well, I've discovered it in the last 5 or 6 years in a minimal way. I'll be like, wow, I'm at this new level of my skill at
Mm,
living my best life every day. And then yeah, then I would immediately start to compare to the way I used to
mm,
be.
mm.
And I would do that enough times. Eventually I was, no, that's not a good strategy for learning strategy, staying in the
Yeah,
moving forward strategy.
yeah,
I'm convinced now, Craig. You can do with it what you want, but I'm convinced that the going back is draining, and it's we learn to do that. I mean, it's in our school system. What do we got? We got report cards that said we didn't do it good,
yeah. Here's your
and
marked up
that,
returned paper with all the red mark. Here you
yeah,
go. Here's your mistakes. Yeah,
yeah, without the team leading, like, yeah, okay, don't go backwards. Focus on what you did well.
yeah, and go
Focus on what
forward.
you did well.
I think what drove it home for me was I'd go back and I'd start cleaning things up, and I'd get part way through beginning to clean it up, and I would learn something else, and I'd be like, okay, if I'd have just gone forward from where I was, I would have also learned something new. And so it's like I find that when I go backwards, like when I return to work that I've already done, I get in like this tighter and tighter spiral of more and more navel gazing. It's like I go around in circles. And when I go, yeah, okay, I did 100 and whatever episodes of that, but that's just one show. It doesn't need, just okay, let go, turn around. What's next? And like, I may have made mistakes. I'm not going to make the same mistake again if I can help it. So it doesn't mean I have to rewrite history. So I think the
Oh,
internet makes that worse because, like, I push publish on a podcast. Unless I go to the trouble of deleting it, it's pretty permanent. I'm
yeah.
watching our time fly by. Maybe I will just say, if anybody is going, guys, where is this thing? It's openandcurious.org. Will get you where you need to go. It's currently a bunch of writing, trying to write every week. I've been a total slacker for many months. I'm sorry, I'm on it.
So
And
wait,
it's
wait,
also,
wait, 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 wait.
I knew I
I
wasn't going
haven't
to get that out.
I wait, 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 wait. I have a message. I have a
Newsflash.
message, Craig, and for anyone else listening. it makes sense that you used the word sorry. I'm sorry. Who are you? Okay, and I'm not going to ask, but this is a rhetorical question. Who are you saying sorry to? Okay, that's a different topic, but you're you're I'm hypothesizing, Craig. I know you well enough. I know you just a little bit, but I know you well enough to know that you have a high commitment to do your best.
Yeah.
Okay? Okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't know what if that was a hypothetical, but it's not a hypothetical that you going back there and 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 saying sorry. Yes, this is my message. It does not make sense, world, to say sorry when you're doing your best at you living your life and leading your life forward.
It's a good point, which I need to tattoo on the inside of my eyelids. Cool. So yeah, new podcast coming soon, but the writing is out there now, and I'm continuing to write. I didn't mean to cut you off. We're a little bit over time, but anything else that you'd like urgent have to?
No, I'm so glad you're on the job of open and curious.
I don't really think I have a choice. It's like I have to do this. So cool. Well, all right, Tom. I will just say thanks so much for both taking the time and actually suggesting this is. I mean, it's not a really really original idea, but it's not something I would have said. Hey, who wants to volunteer to come and be on the show and help me figure this out? But I really appreciate your taking the time and coming at me, via a message like, "Hey, what if we got together and did this thing?" Dot dot dot. So I really appreciate that as well. Thank you very much.
Thank us.